welcome back to my channel, Manal Talks Books. I'm Manal and let's talk books. Today I'm going to recommend some books, specifically books that are perfect for the fall season, the Halloween season, and especially the month of October. Without further ado, let's get into it. The first book I have to recommend is a book that you've probably heard about. The book is called Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. This book is absolutely perfect for fall, Halloween, October. I would highly recommend reading this on Halloween or a few days before. That's actually what I did, and I read it in one sitting. It's highly addictive. You cannot put this book down, but it's also very short, so you will get through it really quickly. Let me tell you a little bit about this book if you've never heard of it. This is called Stalking Jack the Ripper, so obviously it has to do with Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper, the famous serial killer that preyed on prostitutes in London in the 1800s. We follow Rose Wadsworth, and she's a Victorian young lady. However, she is very independent and does not really want to be a lady, or I guess be constrained and restrained by her role in society. And she is apprenticing and learning from her uncle, who is a forensic doctor and does autopsies. So she's very into death, I guess, and just anatomy and learning, and she really wants to be a doctor like her uncle. So when her uncle gets asked by the police to investigate the Ripper murders, she decides to do some investigating of her own, and she starts working on her own and trying to figure out who Jack the Ripper is. She's also helped by Thomas, who's another apprentice of her uncle. And there's a little bit of tension between them. They definitely don't like each other at first, but they end up really getting to know one another and then falling for one another. So Thomas and Rose are at odds all the time. They banter a lot, they argue a lot, but by the end they start to respect and like one another. This book has everything. It has the atmosphere, the dark, creepy vibe. The second book I would highly recommend would be A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. Now, I read this last year when it came out, and this is the first book in a series, a new series of Naomi Novik's. And the second book is actually out, which I cannot remember the title for, but I'll put it on the screen. It's going to be right here. So, cannot wait to read that one. Let's talk about this one though. I had a bad experience with Naomi Novik. I read Uprooted by Naomi Novik like years ago, and it was a DNF for me. Really disappointed me, and I had to DNF it. So when I heard about this book, I was really hesitant. However, I am so glad I decided to buy it and give it a chance. This book, again, is a very quick read because it's short, but also because, like Stalking Jack the Ripper, this one is also very addictive. This book is an urban fantasy, and it's about witches and wizards. So in this world, there are witches and wizards among us, and they have their own wizarding society. But the younger witches and wizards, when they reach the age of 14, I believe, they have to go to the Scholomance, which is a magic school that is completely magical, and it's in a separate plane. So it's not in our world, but you can access it through our world. And they send their children when they're 14 into the Scholomance, and when they're 18 they graduate and come back out and participate in wizarding society. So the school though is very dangerous because, like I said, there are no adults in the school. The school is like fully functioning on itself. It's magical, but it also has monsters, like literally monsters in the basement. So the children can actually get eaten by the monsters. Graduating in this book is more than just an academic achievement. It's also survival. Our main character is actually cursed, or there's something wrong with her and people avoid her. She is not in the popular crowd. No one wants to be her friend. She has this like dark feeling about her. That's what people say. And I think it's been prophesied that she will ruin the world, destroy the world. And so she has to struggle with this destiny and the fact that people don't want anything to do with her, but at the same time, she has to try to survive this school as well. This book is just so good. Like, I cannot stop raving about it. It's a 5 out of 5 stars read for me. This has everything for the fall season. It has magic, it has witches and wizards, it has monsters and a magical school. The third book I'd like to recommend is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. This one is for the people who love to cry when reading. This is a very sad book. And for those who don't like sad books, tragic books, like me, which I don't, but somehow I read this, and what helped was listening to it. I still think that you should read this book, even though it's sad, because it's a very compelling story, and it is a beautiful story. This takes place during World War II in France, but also in Germany. It's a dual POV book, so we follow this girl in France and this boy in Germany. He's in the Nazi youth and eventually a Nazi soldier, and she's this blind girl living in France with her grandfather, I believe. This book is really, really sad. It does not end well, let me tell you. This is not a spoiler, it's to prepare you. This does not end well, but it honestly does end with a little note of hope, which does help the sadness go down quite nicely. Historical fictions are perfect for the fall season, especially the ones that take place in World War II. I don't know. On a lighter note, I highly recommend Vampire Academy by Rachel Mead. Please don't be scared away by the awful, awful cover and the awful title, to be honest, Vampire Academy, but it's really good. This is what I would call a classic YA book, because it has all of the vibes from a classic YA. So the love triangle element, the vampire element. If you're looking for a good vampire book and you've somehow missed this during the vampire craze of the early 2010s, you have to give this a chance. This is really good. So we follow these two girls, they're best friends, and they live in this world where there are 3 types of people. We have the Dampers, the Moroi, and the Strigoi. The Moroi are the good vampires, so they're vampires, but they can control themselves, and they don't get burned when they're out in the sun, they just get weak, and they also have magic. Then we have the Strigoi, which are the bad vampires, and those are the vampires that are animal-like, beast-like. They're all about drinking blood and killing people, and they die when they're out in the sun, and they're your traditional vampires. Then we have the Dampers, who are half Moroi and half human, and they're kind of on the lower rung of their society because usually they're bastards, and they actually serve to protect the Moroi high classes. And all of these people go to this academy when they're children. Not the Strigoi. They're usually out in the world running amok, and the Dampers and Moroi actually kill them and try to hide what they do so that the world doesn't freak out, because this is urban fantasy and the normal people don't know about these vampires running around. At the beginning of this book, we follow a Damper girl, Rose, and her best friend / the person she protects, Lissa. Lissa is a princess. So we follow them as they go to school, try to survive, try to make friends, try to find love, while at the same time being vampires. There's also a lot about class and discrimination and sexism. It's fun, it's addictive, it's entertaining, it's got all of the warm, cozy vibes that you want during the fall season. And again, vampires. Finally, the last book I want to recommend for the fall season is Ruby Red by Kirsten Gier. This book is such a comfort read. It makes me smile every time I think of this. I think I've read it 3 or 4 times, and there's also a movie if you want to watch a movie afterwards. I read this book in one sitting every single time I've read it. The first time I read it, I really needed a comfort read. I was feeling really down, and so I was at the school library and I saw this book, and it was about time travel, and I love time travel. So I decided to give it a chance, and I started it that morning and I finished it that night when I came home from school, and I was reading it throughout my classes and everything. Every time I think about this, I just think about the comfort it brought me back then, and ever since, every time I need some comfort, I read this. This does what it's meant to be doing, which is allow you to escape into another world where you can follow this girl as she proves everyone wrong, and you get to live through her. In this book, we follow our main character, Gwendolyn. She lives in London, England, and she lives with this weird family of hers in this like manor house. And she has this cousin who is the most popular girl in school. Her cousin has all of the attention because for some reason that Gwendolyn doesn't know, her cousin is important, and she disappears almost every day somewhere to do something, and no one knows anything about it. But on Gwendolyn's 16th birthday, everyone finds out that Charlotte, her cousin, is not actually the one that is important, but Gwendolyn is. And that precipitates a whole series of events. And again, there's romance, and there's just time travel and fun and shenanigans. So that's all the books I had to recommend for the fall season. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe and ring the bell to get the notifications. I'll see you next week. Bye guys.